This music.
Go to the Matildas!
Woo! All right, yes. All right then. G'day everyone and welcome back to Hungry Talks. This episode we're diving headfirst into multiculturalism and linguistic diversity in communications and advertising.
It's a chockers show, but before we go any further, John Burgess, Director of Strategy at Little Rocket and one of tonight's live guests, will do an acknowledgement of country.
Just want to acknowledge the lands in which we're working from today. Pay my respect to the Wurundjeri, Woiwurrung of the Kulin Nations, and recognise that these lands have never been ceded. Pay my respects to any other Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people watching.
Thank you so much, John. As advertisers, it could be argued that our ultimate goal is to reach as many people as possible. And what better way to do that than make your ad as appealing as possible?
Well, making it appealing is one thing, or you could just have an obnoxiously large ad on a massive billboard to maybe overcompensate for something. Advertisers have been going large for a while now. Kinda cool, kinda lame.
It is cool and it is lame, but it's not quite what I was getting at. And it is probably really expensive and hard to organise.
It's a lot, but what is important, especially in today's world, is assessing your work on a cultural and diversity level. But what does that mean?
Cultural norms and standards are built on independent histories and contexts. These can be formed by massive events or mild cultural change-ups that happen very slowly over time that influence communication standards, meaning that some things can be perfectly okay in one culture, but not in another.
Yeah, that's right. Especially here in Australia. Some people love using the C word as a term of endearment. I was almost going to say it, but obviously I can't. I personally love it, but in other English-speaking cultures, they usually think it's a really foul word. So for example, if someone in the States were to call you they're very likely insulting you. But here in Australia, some mean it as a term of endearment. It can mean mate. I should probably move on though and not really tell you all the other things it can mean, seeing as we're on air.
I think that's a good idea, Jaya. And Australian culture is like a really good example, especially as we discuss linguistic diversity. Have you guys ever stopped to think about how weirdly we talk?
Like when we say, yeah, nah, do we mean yeah or nah? And what makes it even more crazy is that most of the time that answer depends on a lot of things.
Nah, yeah. Oh wait, I think I meant yeah, nah. As a nation, we are obsessed with idioms, which makes no sense, and it makes sense. We're casual, laid back, and modest. Why not reflect that in how we speak?
But how does our easygoing, laid back language sound for those whom English is a second language, or for those who learn a different form of English, like American English, for example? The answer is, well, it gets bloody confusing.
And I heard you asking, how does this relate to advertising? Don't worry, we're getting there. But let's first swap perspectives a bit to really get our heads around how confusing, unclear communication and idioms can be in a language you don't fully understand. Hey, did you want to grab lunch?
Yeah. Nah.
Is that a yes or...
Are your bats in the belfry? Of course it's a yes.
Are my bats where? Sorry, what the hell are you on about?
Well, what? What? Okay, now you're confusing me. This is turning into a very serious case of rice with mango.
You're confusing me? Come on, man. I'm hungry. I just want to grab something to eat.
Are you listening? I said yes. Water off a duck's back.
Okay, yes, I think we're getting somewhere. Anything in mind?
I'm shitting and talking.
What are you on about?
Repetition teaches the donkey.
I do not understand what you are saying. But we could go for Japanese if you understand that. Maybe Nobu.
Eh? No, way too expensive. Costs an eye and a head.
Okay, sorry. Macca's?
I'm shitting and talking.
Okay, I know that one now. Let's go.
You know what, to be honest, Charlie, I could go for some Macca's. I'm fending it a little bit.
Yeah, I think fries would hit pretty hard right now. But the point is we use idioms so often in our speech without even noticing. We mumble, we shorten words, we shorten phrases. So how bloody confusing could that be for someone learning English or as a second language?
I mean, have you ever translated something into Google Translated and then translated it back again?
Never ends well. You make a very good point there, Jaya. Translating slang causes a lot of grief for advertisers because they put a lot of time into creating strong copy, only for it to translate into gibberish to a large portion of their potential target audience. So how do we as advertisers communicate clearly to all audiences?
Well, I have an idea.
Oh no, I was asking rhetorically. What is it?
You know what I'm going to say. Jingles.
Please don't. Right now we're kind of like in the middle
Gotta
of something.
sneak it in somewhere.
You really don't though.
Charlie, you'll get there eventually. Roll it.
Alright, so to change it up, let's think of a pop song that we can sing and guess which brand was used to advertise.
Okay, sounds cool.
I still call Australia home.
Wait, isn't that our national anthem?
What? No, it was in the top 100 charts in 1980.
What chart?
The music charts, the music.
Well, does it look like I was born in the 80s?
Well, anyway, which company did it advertise?
I know that, it's Qantas. I just had no idea that that was an actual song. My turn, anyway. I don't care, I love it.
Yeah, that's KFC, but when did that song come out and who sang it?
Oh, how could you not know Icona Pop? That song was a huge hit in 2012, and it was #3 in the ARIA charts. So take that, Qantas.
Oh yeah, my grade 4 self vaguely remembers that song.
Honestly, I can't with you. Seriously, how could you not know Icona Pop?
Okay, jingles. You already know. I can't handle them, but I do, however, like creative song usage in ads.
Close enough. I'll take it for now.
Don't let that get to your head too much. We've got a lot of show to get through today, including this week's Ad of the Week.
This week's edition comes from Dove, who have had their sights set on challenging beauty standards that were being perpetuated through AI face filters on social media.
This is not what I look like right now. This filter should be illegal. Here's the real me. Oh my God.
A new beauty trend going viral on TikTok.
What's the filter called again?
Bold glamour.
Bold glamour.
Bold glamour.
Bold glamour.
There's practically no way to tell that I've got a filter on. I can move about.
Unlike traditional beauty filters, every pixel on your face is regenerated.
The beautification filter can cause psychological distress.
And I worry about how this impacts young girls' confidence.
It is time to turn our backs against digital distortion.
C'est vraiment important de s'assumer comme
ansiedade com a nossa aparência real.
We're not just doing it for our family. We know there's other families, we know there's other kids out here that's watching, that's listening.
The hashtag Turn Your
back is all over TikTok right now.
I'm turning my back to digital distortion.
Turn your back.
La espalda a esto.
Turn our back.
Un filtro no es necesario.
I'm going to go one better than turning my back on this.
I think these filters are here to hurt us, and I think it's time we turned our back on them.
I don't like it either. You know why? Because it doesn't look like you. There we go.
All right, you heard it. It's time to turn your back. Please welcome today to the show Amber and Val.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much for having us. What were your thoughts on the ad?
It's beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it really hits that Dove tone of voice that they usually use in their campaigns.
I love the empowerment that it brings.
I think social media just plays such an important role on beauty standards nowadays, and just for women and everyone. So I think it's a very important campaign and very interesting campaign. Yeah,
and it's definitely good how their main focus is basically turning your back to toxic beauty standards and all the negative implications of social media.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's interesting though, because it's I feel like beauty filters are just used on everyday lives, and people on TikTok use it, Instagram, and it's a very interesting campaign because it's interesting to see how far it'll actually change that, because I feel like we're just very into using beauty filters that it's actually interesting to see what this campaign will have, what the effect
it
will
is
have.
so ingrained.
Yeah.
So, how far does that work? But
yeah,
what they're trying to do, definitely.
Yeah, the message is great.
The message is definitely super strong, and I think for younger audiences as well who are using, I'd say, social media and those filters probably more than I guess our age would, or even older than us. I think it's so important to have that kind of messaging through an ad to get those young girls knowing that beauty isn't everything, and natural beauty is actually what matters, not this artificial doll image basically.
Exactly. It's very empowering, and even Dove's tone of voice that they take with a lot of their campaigns, they're really trying to support women and do that, which is really amazing, I think.
Yeah, I think it's very important because we consume social media, and young girls consume social media every day, and it's now even hard to tell when something's real and something's not. You can just Photoshop anything, and you don't even need Photoshop.
You don't know what to trust. You can't trust anything.
It happened to me. I'm on TikTok, and I will be just on the camera, and then it's got the, I don't know what it's called. It's is it called the beauty filter?
Yeah.
And it's on already, and sometimes I'll be oh my God, my skin looks flawless, and then I'll be
everything is fake.
Actually,
it's not real.
Such a trap.
And there's so many apps out there, photo editing apps, that basically you can just click a button.
It takes 2 seconds.
It takes 2 seconds, exactly.
Yeah, and for videos too, it's actually scary. You can morph your body and your face and on video too, and it looks really just real. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Did you have any thoughts, either of you, on current feminism advertisements at the moment? Also maybe speak on Matildas?
I'm actually so excited to watch them tonight.
So excited.
Thought I'd bring it up again.
I think it's great that I feel first of all, that people in Australia are watching football, but because back home, we just love soccer so much. So I'm actually really happy that you guys are watching soccer, but most of all, more important, how the shift that the Matildas have made on media, and I feel it has had a positive shift,
yes,
totally to an extent, but it's getting there.
It's taking
its
time.
I was
taking its time, but
I was never a sports watching person. I'd never just turn it on and watch it. I hate watching the AFL. I can't stand it. But I had colleagues talking about the Matildas, and I was oh my God, what's all the hype about? I watched one show and I was hooked. I mean, watching the women play is just incredible. It's so empowering just to watch them get up and just keep going.
Yeah.
And I guess the culture of it as well is huge. And like seeing that culture integrated into like TikTok, Instagram, like everywhere, and the conversations that are coming out of it, I think are really important for, like, once again, younger audiences to like, you know, to be part of that.
Yeah, it plays a very important role. I feel like growing up, like I used to play sports and like you didn't really see that. Like,
and now you've got that strong representation.
Yeah, exactly. Like I used to swim back home, and back home, once again, like soccer is very big, but like you wouldn't even see like female soccer. It would just be like men playing soccer, and it's like, well, like where am I going to get to? Like what am I looking up to? So I just think it's great that they're doing that, and like, it's just amazing to watch.
I think for a lot of girls as well who end up like quitting sport at such a young age because of other commitments, because of it being too competitive, because of not being able to go far enough, like in a, I guess, a competitive role, seeing these women like get to the semi-finals, like that's incredible. And then
that you can make a career out of it.
You can make a career out of it, basically. It's not just a lost hope. Like I played basketball when I was younger, and like ended up quitting because it was like, well, like I can't get anywhere.
Yeah,
like
and
you
it's
know,
kind of like, oh, what am I going to do with this? But now it's like a real stepping stone of like,
exactly.
It's like everyone tells you like, oh, you can't make a life out of sports, but now you're seeing it, and it's actually like very motivating and just amazing to watch.
It's no longer like the men's team coming in and ruining like your sports session, and you have to just like leave the court. It's like, okay, like let the girls finish.
Yeah.
And they're very tough. Have you seen that they're not like falling on the floor and tumbling around?
They like fall down on the field and they just get straight back up and keep going. Like there's
like
no
nothing
show or anything. Yeah.
I love it. Have you seen any like advertising for Matildas?
Nike ads, I feel like.
Nike has done a lot in terms of, I feel like, pushing that. But in saying that, recently there was a news article that I read that was like they haven't sold, or they're not selling one of the Matildas jerseys. And it was, I can't even remember who exactly it was, but they were selling all the other jerseys and then wouldn't sell this one for the Matildas, but were selling it for all the other different teams. Like, I think it was a goalkeeper or something like that. Yeah. So it brought up a little bit of like conversation online, a couple of news articles, and I'm sure that there'll be more discussion around that.
I feel like there's still like stuff that has to change, but
for sure.
there has been a shift, I feel like.
I think this is a start.
It's a stepping
especially
stone.
from like where it used to be, and also like women not being paid like drastically low amounts compared to men in sport and things like that. That's,
it's a stepping stone, like I said. I feel like, there'll be a bigger shift eventually, hopefully.
Yeah,
I think
hopefully.
That started.
It's
bloody awesome to see. As someone as well, I've like loved football my whole life. I played in mixed teams as well when I was younger, and it's just so good to see that we're all getting behind women and the women's sport, and we should just fund it more, please.
Yes.
Please fund it more. Australian government, put money into all women's sport, but especially football, soccer.
Every sport.
All of the above.
All of it.
Yeah, I hope everyone's going to watch it tonight, because I'm going straight to the pub after this to watch it.
I think we are as well. Amber and Val, wow, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Good luck with the rest of your semester.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll see lots of cool work coming from you guys.
Yeah.
And as we discussed earlier about the importance of cultural and linguistic diversity in advertising, here to discuss us more next is Belle Kwan from CultureVerse, part of the ThinkHQ Group.
And if those agency names don't ring a bell, they are about to roll it.
Belle, thank you very much for joining us in the studio and what is now a Hungry Talks tradition. we've asked you to share with us a photo from the 90s. Let's have a look.
Oh dear.
Very cute, don't worry.
There you go.
That was me when I was 4.
Aww. Yeah, can you take us back through time a little bit? How did you get to where you are today?
Wow, you're bringing up my age now. I think I've always led quite a multicultural life, born in Hong Kong, growing up in Singapore, and Singapore being a very multicultural country as well. And I think coming to Australia, being in the university environment, and after that moving on to the Australian Jewish News and working there for 13 years. So my whole life has been really multicultural. Yeah. My family's very multicultural, and it's just part of it. It doesn't even feel like something different or unique.
It just feels right.
It's
like
just
it's
life.
just natural.
To me, it's just life.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely.
I really love that. So Belle, CultureVerse are doing awesome work in communicating social good across Australia. Why do you think a company like CultureVerse is needed in the industry?
Good question, Charlie. I think you mentioned earlier how Australia is such a multicultural country.
Yep.
Just to bring out some stats, more than 1 in 4 people living in Australia are not born in Australia. So if you think about that, we come to Australia with different lived experiences, different cultural expectations, different language skills. So if you think about Australia today, it is made out of so many different people from so many different countries. And when it comes to communicating to these people, it's about knowing, like you guys have talked about earlier, knowing how to speak to these people in a way that's relevant to them, but also in a way that they'll understand and they'll actually get the right message across. So it's, to us at CultureVerse, we feel that there is never a one-size-fits-all solution.
Yeah.
And the importance is really of listening to people's stories, listening to how people feel, or how they view a certain topic, and really expressing their points of view and getting messages across to them in that way that they'll understand.
Exactly. I think that's really important to note. And you've also mentioned before, like, the general population as we know it is not what we perceive it to be. Yeah. With 1 in 4 being born overseas and things like that, it's constantly changing. So I find that very interesting.
And CultureVerse has a super diverse team. So what does diversity mean for you?
Oh, good question.
Big question.
Big question. I think diversity for me goes beyond just a token acknowledgement, a token showing. It's so easy to go, let's have a person of color appear in an advertisement, or let's have, a caption in a different language at the bottom of an ad or a movie. To me, that's not diversity. No. That's tokenistic, if you will. For me, diversity really is accepting, understanding, and more importantly, respecting that people are all different and we have different views, we come from different backgrounds, and incorporating that in everything you do. So from a work perspective, whether it's, harnessing someone's ability or someone's knowledge of a certain language, at university, at school, it's, working with people from different backgrounds and really listening to how they might view a problem or they might view a project. And in everyday life, it really is that respect and that acknowledging that we are all different. There isn't a right or wrong way to do something.
Yeah, because it goes so much past just translating language badly using Google Translate, for example. It's translating the culture, translating different traditions and social norms and everything like that. So I really think CultureVerse is doing good. Yes. And on that, do you have any special or favourite projects that CultureVerse do?
I think one of the latest campaigns I worked on, and it's interesting you talk about translating. What we do at CultureVerse, we do a lot of transcreation. Yeah. So more than just, putting something through Google Translate, it's looking at a more mainstream project and thinking, how could we transcreate it or recreate it to suit a more multicultural audience? So a project I did was with the Department of Social Services for the care and support sector, trying to get people to considered jobs in the care and support sector. And we really took the time to do the research. So we spoke to international students. We spoke to women who might have to come out of retirement with, the financial situation today.
Yeah.
We spoke to multicultural career advisors who really understand obstacles or barriers that certain multicultural people might face in going down a certain path that might not be, a prestigious job.
Yeah.
So really listening to these stories and then coming out with campaigns and coming out with messages that acknowledge these stories, acknowledge these barriers, and provide useful advice and useful information that they go, wow, these people really get my challenges, or they get my life, or they get my journey. And that really cut through to them.
Yeah, and I suppose that way they feel seen, like it's like they've not been forgotten. And I think you've mentioned before, like people moving to Australia can take like upwards to a year to understand some basic things such as like bins and some basic things that we like don't even have to think twice about.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it was interesting you guys talked about idioms earlier on.
Yeah.
And it really is just even having to pick up the nuances of a language, understanding what it means when someone walks past you on the street and go, how's it going?
Yes.
If
you're like, I'm not going anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere, or why do you want to know where I'm going? But really, what's so normal and so everyday to us for someone who, and for at least 1 in 4 of us who are from somewhere else. 25%. You have to understand that it'll probably take a bit more than a few seconds, like you said, perhaps a year or two, just to assimilate and to even just adopt and accept their new life. And beyond that, but how do you also not lose your own culture and your own experience, your own background, and how do you continue to live that way and hope that people around you respect that as well?
Yeah.
To me, that's really important.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely it is. And in terms of the context of cultural diversity and then advertising, how do you think contemporary advertising is falling short?
Good question. Tough question. I think we have to acknowledge that there has been a big shift, and I think there is a greater awareness, especially in Australia, that there isn't a normal Australian or the normal Australian culture. It is changing so much, and I feel that there has been a shift to be more inclusive. And from our perspective at CultureVerse, we work on quite a lot of government campaigns and non-for-profit campaigns, and it's so encouraging to see that, government organizations and these big organizations are recognizing the importance and coming to us for our advice, for research, and really acknowledging how important genuine, authentic research is, not just what someone might think or might have heard down the street, really talking to people and investigating and coming up with campaigns that work. So there is definitely an acknowledgement in the industry that it's important.
Yeah.
There is a lot more work that can be done. And I think from a student's point of view, I think it's so important that future advertising and marketing professionals really think about this and perhaps even go down that path of how they might want to progress and how they can bring their own unique perspectives or their own unique lives to our industry.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's why we wanted to have an episode like this where we really make sure that we're discussing these things, because like you said, as the students, it's kind of our job to expand it, keep more to it,
Yes, you're our future.
Yeah.
And I think, just looking at even the RMIT landscape, so many of us come from different countries. Our parents come from different countries. So we bring with us such unique stories. And I think it'll be a shame that these stories aren't, shown, they aren't used, and they aren't acknowledged. So it's a positive thing. Being different today, it's a beautiful thing. It's a very important thing.
Yeah, I think we can definitely use it to like our advantage and gain like these personal insights that like relate to audiences out there. I think that's really amazing.
Also, just for those like us getting started in the industry, starting these conversations, tell us a bit about what you do as an account director.
Okay, so I'm an account director, but CultureVerse is a really different agency from, say, your bigger, more mainstream agencies. So, touching on the fact that we do something so unique and almost a little bit different, where there's a different level of expertise that's required. So we're a very lean team. So within our team, we cover everything from research to translation to transcreation. We've got a special localization team that works with voiceover talents and translators. So that's a completely separate department altogether. So within the whole CultureVerse team, we work across the whole spectrum, from research and translation to execution to media pitching to evaluation. So as an account director, I guess I sort of touch a bit on everything.
Yeah.
But hugely supported by wonderful, very talented team that sort of bring their own insights and bring their own lived experiences. Our everyday life in the office, we could be tossing up, how would this copy line translate into Mandarin? Does this image work for an Arabic audience? Does that campaign, will it work for a Korean audience? And if not, how do you transcript or translate it? So every day in the office is so beautiful because we get to use our lived experiences and our, I guess, like I said, it's normal life for me, but to be able to bring that out and sort of discuss it, and in the future see it, result in a campaign that's going to work and make a cultural audience feel, spoken to and feel acknowledged. To me, like it's amazing. So it's fun.
I suppose
it's
it's
fun place to
like
work.
really rewarding in that sense that you're kind of like giving back, and you're giving back to what you didn't have growing up and things like that. So you're like helping other people out there.
Absolutely.
Which I think is really amazing, yeah.
And very fun. And very, very fun, yeah.
I'm glad to hear. Also, Belle, so we discussed like linguistic diversity and the madness that can be caused by colloquial language. You recently held a talk discussing this as well. Can you like give us a quick brief outlining what was discussed for this?
I think linguistic diversity, you guys talked about idioms and the use of languages and slangs, and that's so unique to every culture, and that's so unique to different languages that a certain word might or might not translate. So I spoke to a class recently about, even the phrase the bachelor's handbag.
Yeah.
And everyone just stopped and went, what's a bachelor's handbag? So some of you might know this, but a bachelor's handbag, it's the roast chicken you pick up from the supermarket. Unless you read it in the news or you've been in Australia for the last, couple of months and you get the joke, for a lot of people, they're like, why is a roast chicken from a supermarket a bachelor's handbag?
So,
it's a new one even for me.
It's a new one, exactly. And that's the beauty, where our language is constantly changing. And for those of you who don't know what a bachelor's handbag is, go Google it. I thought that
grab one from Woolies on the way back home.
Grab a bachelor's handbag. But I thought it's beautiful. But also it can be confusing how drastic language can change.
Yeah.
And also I think I would love to see in future Australia where we are continually being influenced by other languages. So coming from Singapore, where there's a language called Singlish that some people might know about, which is a mix of English but with a bit of Malay, which is the Bahasa Melayu language, a bit of Hokkien, which is a Chinese dialect, a bit of Indian, a bit of Hindi and Tamil mixed in. So it's almost like Singapore Singlish is a creation of all these
just all
cultures
together,
mixed up together. And unless you were from Singapore, you would have, even though we would say, well, we're speaking English, you'd be like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
Because of all these beautiful injections of the different cultures that we've just grown up with. And hopefully one day, Australian English is going to become something different as well.
Yeah. Definitely. All right, Belle, thank you so much for coming on. I think we've all really appreciated your perspective coming from like CultureVerse, and really understood like the importance of having like such diversity within like the advertising industry. So thank you so much once again.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
We've got a double feature of live guests joining us tonight, but let's take a little breather for now. Let's play some ads. Sometimes they can be quite soothing.
to cities that never close down. From New York to Rome and old London town.
But no matter how far or how wide I roam, I still call Australia home. I'm always traveling, I love being free, so I keep leaving the sun and the sea.
My heart lies waiting over the phone. I still call Australia home. All the sons and daughters sing around the world, away from their family and friends.
I miss you. Can't wait to see you.
It's a pretty nice ad, that one. Joining us now is owner and CEO John Burgess and Kelsey Dubar from creative agency Little Rocket. For those who may be unaware of some of their awesome work, not to worry, let's fill you in. Roll it.
John, Kelsey, thank you so much for coming in here tonight and thank you for sharing these 90s photos. And we've also got this one.
Yeah, that one hurts. That one's... Can you look at that?
And this one of Kelsey. All right.
They're definitely the reactions we were expecting.
Yeah.
Now, we just shared with the viewers some of your agency's work, but for those who may still be unfamiliar with Little Rocket, how would you describe your agency?
Yeah, so I founded Little Rocket about 13 years ago, and we had sort of pivoted halfway through our journey to focus on First Nations work, which, my heritage is Gurindji, so my community is about 12 hours south of Darwin, and you may know that community from the Little Things, Big Things Grow. That's all about our struggle and our journey, which has been well documented by Paul Kelly, which is great. But yeah, the ability to be able to sort of use my skill set in marketing, PR, advertising, and to give back to community was just such a unique opportunity. Yeah, a lot of trauma in my family, 3 generations of stolen generations. So the journey back to country, the journey back to connecting with country, and then being able to put together a really dynamic team that can really make a difference in community is sort of where that orientation went. And so that's kind of the founding blocks of Little Rocket, named after my niece, who, yeah, my late father used to call her the Little Rocket. So we thought that was pretty cute. We ran with that.
That's such a cute story. I really love like the foundations of like your agency.
Yeah.
I think that's really inspiring, and I also like really like how you're giving back to your like community directly by putting this together and doing this work.
Yeah. I think when you start out in your career, you're not too sure how it's going to manifest.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, you know, and certainly mine up until starting Little Rocket had gone through a lot of iterations. Sponsorship and radio and sales and marketing, PR, all sorts of things. And yeah, to be able to actually work on content that gives back directly in everything that we do throughout our supply chain, being able to integrate with First Nations artists, First Nations photographers, caterers for events, all sorts of aspects, illustrators, animators, where they just wouldn't have had that opportunity not too long ago, you know.
Yeah. You're really bringing in a really important thing. You're giving them a chance to be involved in this advertising world, and beyond that as well. And obviously, it's such an important thing that we have businesses like yours and companies that exist. And like, why do you think it's so important for an agency like yours to be in today's world?
Yeah, I think to be seen is to be heard, and what we're seeing in the landscape today is that that First Nations voice doesn't need to be last. It can be first. It can be as front and centre as any other. And for too long, we've negated to tell those stories. We haven't allowed language. We haven't allowed culture. And now we're at a point, I think, in Australia's journey. I think we're certainly owning parts of our history that are very difficult as part of our national identity, and as a part of that we're also wanting to tell the truth. We're wanting treaty. We want to see these things change because we want our kids to grow up in a different environment. So the celebration of that through creative community advertising is really important, and really I think now more than ever, really to be able to give those voices a pathway and a face in our, predominantly white landscape in advertising. It's really, I mean, I never thought in my lifetime, and I hear my mother say this a lot, in hers, that she'd see this sort of change. So I kind of describe it as we're in that eye of change in more ways than others, with the children to know as well, but it's really important,
Yeah, I think it also really bridges the gap that any agency could probably take on clients that we do or try and do what we do, but having a director that does have that knowledge of country and culture to really be able to just connect that and educate all of our clients on truth-telling and sovereignty and all of that. It really helps them be able to drive that and make that change themselves as well. So I think that's really important too.
Yeah, perfect. And like, so your clients and then your team are very like focused around doing work on social good. How do you find this is like represented in your projects and everything you do?
I think kind of what John touched on before is we work with a lot of First Nations artists, and just having that portfolio and being able to give them that opportunity to upskill themselves and work with like corporate clients that they've probably never been able to reach out to before, and get on a journey and a pathway for bigger and better every single day. It's really uplifting for us to be able to do that for people. So that's really empowering, and we also we work in quite a sustainable way as well, and we do everything we can to help plant those trees, and we partner with a few companies in that way as well.
Yeah, it's that value proposition that a lot of businesses are orientating around now, where it needs to be within their procurement process, this element of social procurement.
Yeah.
So government contracts, large agencies are having to navigate in this space. So we become an integral part of that, and we can be a really great conduit. So engaging with an agency like ours, we're able to not only advise competently in cultural aspects and cultural engagement, but we can plug a company or an agency into a supply chain framework, and we can be a really great centre point for them to go, okay, well, I can, Kelsey looks after our events, I can do events through you. That means we've got AV team in-house, we've got marketing, we've got digital,
Amazing.
and then this network of artists, so in that way, we're trying to sort of create a real sort of base for companies and brands to be able to sort of just go, we might not know everything in this space, and we really need to get some advice.
Yeah, we asked our earlier guest, Belle, on what diversity means for you, and now I want to ask you that as people representing First Nations people of Australia. What does diversity mean to both of you?
Yeah, well, diversity, if we look at it in a First Nations aspect, Australia is the only country in the world that has 2 Indigenous cultures. So, and then of that, there are over 500 nations. So if we want to talk about diversity in Australia, and trying to market that and trying to advertise that, we often get a brief like, we just want to make that sound a little bit Aboriginal, or we want to sort of reach that kind of client base, and I'm like, well, which one? Which one are we talking to?
Be more specific.
There's a lot, and there's a lot of differences too.
Yeah.
I was born and raised in Naarm, but my mob are very different, from the Kulin nations here.
Yeah.
I've spoken and Kelsey spent some time with the Yolngu mob up in Northern Territory, and yeah, it's just so diverse. So when I think of diversity and inclusion, our team is made up of people from everywhere, and I love that, and the power in harnessing that in a creative aspect. 100% life skills, life experience is just amazing, and I love that, and I'll always like to foster that. But then the extension of that is with, we get to engage with all these different Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander communities on our campaign work and stuff, and educate the clients on, oh, that's different to here because, there's a bit of history here between these two, or this is, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think I was going to go down the avenue of Little Rocket as a team as well, because we are all quite diverse and unique in what we can do and our skill sets and where we're from, and it's just amazing that we can kind of come together as a collective and create the projects that we do, and just bounce off each other, ideate together, and come up with some really creative ideas and be able to execute that together. So I think John's done a great job of trying to build this agency, and what we've got to now, we're about 20 people now, I think, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really valuable part of Little Rocket, and what we've created, that diverse kind of sound base of us.
Yeah, that's a really great insight. Thank you. And obviously also you guys offer a wide range of services to a massive amount of clients. Do you guys ever have to work around a specific request or mandatories? I know you were coming in that you're basically, you're telling them the differences between lots of the different cultural groups.
Yep.
How do you work around that?
Yeah, a lot of nuances, a lot of education.
Yeah.
There's a real cultural load that comes with our space, and in 2 ways, in that the client wants to engage with you to create culturally appropriate material for the campaign, for the engagement.
Yeah.
With that comes the responsibility of executing that accurately and appropriately culturally. There's definitely a term that's used quite regularly in community called blowback. And that means, if you're out of sync or out of relationship with your community or that community, and you're not doing it justice or doing it right, we bear the risk of that. And so when they're engaging, especially with government, corporate, our clients, and the procurement process and we're signing off on big legal documents that are saying, well, you know, this is to secure us, but we actually have to wear a lot of the risk in that process. So a large part of it is trying to mitigate that and trying to sort of, and, you know, and say, look, some of this might be a bit of an education journey for you, the client, or how about you come along with it in these aspects and we try and get there together. But yeah, always really interesting conversations. We can, you know, have these great bits with our AV team where they just arrest time and it's uncle and auntie talking about country or talking about things that we haven't for so long in this country. Like, and, you know, you've just done a 8-hour shoot or whatever it might be, but you don't feel like you've been at work. You feel like, you know, your soul's been wrenched open and, you know, there it is. Like, just beautiful, amazing pieces of opportunity, I guess, that I find really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's also moving away from that kind of tokenistic approach of the way things can come across, and coming to an agency like us, we can really help define those key parameters of what people need to kind of work within and help guide them down that pathway too. So connecting them to aunties and uncles or traditional owners or people in community so they can really learn from the ground up and know exactly how things are done and speak with confidence and have respect as well.
Amazing, yeah, because I definitely feel like it would be a learning experience in terms of like the companies and briefs and agencies, because they're like, I don't know this like sector and I don't want to be tokenistic in that sense. I also just wanted to ask, did either of you have any advice for like recent graduates or First Nation people who are like looking for a job?
Yeah, we were talking about this today. You know, the First Nations talent pool is a smaller pool than a lot of employment sectors out there. If you think about something that I sort of like to share is you know, that Aboriginal people were denied owning businesses, land, language, things like this, up until just recently, you know. So at my age in this role, I'm considered Generation 1. So we're 2023, and Aboriginal business owners, this is the first generation of them. It seems crazy when you think about, you know, how that is. So, you know, we didn't have parents that ran mechanics or businesses or
had to start
markets. Yes, there was no reference point. So a lot of this is sort of new navigation. So for us, we're really desperately trying to engage with First Nations communities within the supply chain. And it's part of our sort of reconciliation action plan ourselves that we're doing. We do a lot of those for other clients, but we're doing one internally. And yeah, one of those areas where we thought we really want to sort of excel in that is that we've partnered with a number of other agencies, and this year we'll be launching an internship that gives them exposure before university, or before going to the workforce, in all these different agencies, so that they can see what, you know, account management looks like, see what marketing strategy and social media and all those things sort of look like. So we're really excited about that. Creating pathways before university, so high school, even getting out and experiencing some internships with us. Yeah, these are really the foundational blocks of change that we're really kind of passionate about.
Yeah, and I would say to kind of strip away the thoughts of, say, your background or where you're from, and just own your skills and have confidence in what you can do, because there's a job out there for everyone. And if you put your hand up and you put yourself out there, you're gonna strive for achievement. And I say, even when I was at school, university, I probably didn't even think about working in an audiovisual team or knowing that there was such creative skills out there. I was very kind of business orientated, and obviously marketing goes into that creative realm a little bit, which is really great. But yeah, really having that kind of open mindset of what's out there and just going for it, really. Yeah.
Wow, yeah. Thank you so much, John and Kelsey, for coming on, for sharing such important information, obviously representing culture that has thousands of years of stories and like art and so much that can be shared and transformed into the ad agency and just creatives in general. We really appreciate it. We're keen to see what you guys do in the future. We're going to take a quick ad break. We'll be right back, but in the meantime, huge round of applause for our guests tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was really good.
No heat's going to let up just yet.
Marge, the rains are here.
McCain Super Juicy Corn Cobbets, specially ground to be super juicy. So juicy they're simply bursting with flavour. Ah, McCain, you've done it again.
With more than 25 billion good bacteria in every capsule, an Inner Health Plus every day can help put the balance back into your digestive health and improve your general well-being.
Have you had your Inner Health Plus today?
Oh, I think I'm gonna throw up.
Stop pests treating your home like their own with Mortein Nature Guard Automatic Insect Control System. It continuously protects your home.
Uh-oh. Mortein Nature Guard Automatic.
By targeting both flying and crawling insects, wherever they are. Avoid nasty pest surprises with Mortein Nature Guard Automatic. Winner of Household Product of the Year.
More smart, more safe, Mortein.
All right.
Directory. Keep calm. Count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10.
Not happy, Jan!
Well, today has been really helpful and insightful.
Absolutely. I think as advertising students, we should be aware of how our works will be perceived in different cultures and languages as sort of a blanket rule per se.
Now, let's move on to this week's quick brief. We've been doing a lot of work talking this evening. So, Luca, can you take it away?
Are we gonna? Sorry, I didn't see that camera there. Appreciate that, guys. And I also want to show appreciation to Little Rocket for providing us with this week's quick brief. So let's get into it, shall we? This week is super exciting as our brief is for the outdoor advertising giant OO in a campaign to encourage audiences to vote yes for the upcoming voice referendum. This brief asks you to combat the current Don't Know, Vote No campaign that targets undecided voters, and probably funded by Rupert Murdoch. They're your key target audience for your brief alongside those who are contemplating on voting no. Your aim, obviously, is to swing them into a yes with a catchy, powerful, and authentic tone of voice. You'll be armed with a single-minded proposition of vote yes for a better future, but feel free to change it up if need be. Your deliverable should be a script and or creative output for an out-of-home advertisement, such as billboards, bus shelters, and airports. Be sure to think out of the box, and you're more than welcome to steer away from the political avenue. We and Little Rocket are aware that this is a current political matter. For this reason, submissions will be kept internal and will not be shared. But don't let that discourage you, as the winner of this week's submission wins a Welcome to Country cultural experience or a 1-week internship with the Little Rocket team. Very cool. Once again, thanks to Little Rocket for providing us that with this week, and we can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Back to you guys.
That's a pretty cool award you can win. You third years, yeah, pitch night is coming up fast, yeah. So bloody get your move on, or get those briefs and folios ready, or you'll see my face, I'll be coming for you. And as for you sweet and innocent little first and second years, you should do these briefs anyway because, they're fun, right? I mean, you know, and come on the show sometimes, please. I can't just get my third year mates on all the time.
We need a few more people around here.
Please.
But before we bail, please send us through those quick briefs. We've got some great prizes for winning entries in the mix. And if you'd like to be on the show, you can email our creative producer, Chelsea, on this email on the screen. All right, time for some bevies and a Palmer, I think.
You mean Palmer and a Bevs? Thanks, you guys, so much for joining us. Cast, crew, audience, join us next week where we'll be opening up our horizons and discuss the many places your degree can take you. But before we bid you farewell, go Matildas! And John, I'll see you at Fed Square. Go the Matildas. They're going to win. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Good night,
Mwah.
everyone.
Mwah.
See you next time.